I gotta go. All right, we are live. Hold on, I'm just waiting to start on Instagram, but I got Tyler here, and this is gonna be a fun one. So, good morning, Tyler.
Good morning. How you doing?
Good man. So we he clarified that he already has his pension, so they can't really touch him. Um, but we're gonna we're gonna have some fun talking about the wildfires in California because he was a part of the fire department in LA. And just reminder everyone, today is Martin Luther King Jr. Day and Inauguration Day. So we'll just kind of have some fun, nothing real specific, but yeah, man. What's your thoughts, takes on maybe the wildfires in California?
We were just talking about. I mean, there's a lot of people complaining about certain things. I think the guys did an awesome job with what they had. I think. I mean, all of those departments, they absolutely did a phenomenal job. I think everybody asking about the fire hydrants and stuff like that. If you've ever been on a fire of any size, you know when you start pulling from the same mains that you're going to tax the water system. I think with the amount of resources that we're probably pulling off of that, I mean, I don't know how any metropolitan water district could handle the resources that they needed. Our fire chief gave an interview and kind of mentioned the same things, and I think a lot of it too is policy. Like, there's no prescribed burns. There's all these things that were changed to be environmentally friendly, and now you get these gnarly 100-mile-an-hour winds. And I mean, it was impressive to watch the video. So I don't think there was any conspiracy as far as the fire hydrants go and stuff like that. I do think probably like any major city, LA could use a ton of infrastructure upgrades. And my personal feeling is if we're the highest tax state in the country or one of them, where is all that money going if it's not to improve infrastructure and things of that sort? I don't get it. But I talked to a lot of my friends in an apartment and saw some amazing video. And like I said, they did a really good job. But those winds were gnarly. And like I was saying, it reminded me of Maui, where you get 100-mile-an-hour winds. I mean, do you guys have a lot of brush fire on your island too, or no, not like that?
On my island,
Yeah,
we have regular brush fire season
yeah,
in certain parts of the island. But even that, it's getting less and less just because there's so much homes being built in a lot of those
right.
areas because they were vacant before, right? So it's getting less and less. But same thing to your point, right? It's kind of there's a certain season for it. You can do things to prepare or prevent it from being as extreme in a sense, right? I mean, of course, like you're saying, the winds happen. We can't control those things.
Yeah,
If all this water is needed, of course, the system's not going to probably be able to provide as adequate amount. But there is things that you can do ahead of time, right? Like you're saying, controlled burns. I know they were talking about. I'm not sure the exact number, but like you're saying, environmental stuff to where they're not even taking that much lumber from California anymore. So all of these forestry are starting to be like overgrown in a sense. A lot of these man-made um, what you would call fire breaks because
yeah,
vehicles are driving to get lumber and timber and whatnot. They're not there anymore. So these kind of man-made fire breaks are not there to prevent a lot of this hazard in a sense. So I think like they say, I think like you're saying, California is taxed quite a bit, and people are just wondering where a lot of that funding is going, right?
oh, for sure. And like I think it's like we went to Dallas right after Christmas, and you see like all the infrastructure there, how much more updated it is versus California. And you're like, dude, this is possible. Like this is a huge city, and there's nice roads. It's a lot cleaner. Still looks like a big city. All of that stuff, and I'm just it blows me away. Yeah, and like you said, it's a domino effect. So when you stop cutting lumber, the man-made fire breaks stop. It's just like one thing after the other. I am curious why that reservoir wasn't filled, and there's a bunch of other stuff. I do think for both LA City and LA County, the lack of funding, the lack of new engines, all those things, um, they have an effect, right? When you're driving rigs from the 1980s or 90s out there, that's not the best. Neither team, by the way, somebody asked OSU and those are probably two of my least favorite teams as a SC fan. Good grief. If they could both lose, I'd be happy.
Yes, that is true. But if I had to say, I would say OSU, and
OSU.
of course, Joe, the police officer, is going to disagree with me, so he says Notre Dame all the way.
The only thing about the Fighting Irish is Joe Montana went there, and I'm a huge 49ers fan from that era, and Joe Montana was an amazing quarterback. So
Well, I know I'm a big Chicago Bears fan, so Brian Urlacher's son plays for Notre Dame, and I know the Bears. I think they interviewed the head coach, or they're intending to interview the head coach. I know that he's on their list, so he's kind of rising up the ranks as far as coaching prospect for the Chicago Bears. So we'll see how that plays out.
nice.
But yeah, I mean, like going back to the fire a little bit. I mean, like you said, there's a lot of conspiracy theories and whatnot, and like you said, yeah, the water, the reservoir, like that is a big question, right? I mean, as far as even if it was being repaired, like would this be the best time for it to be under repair in a sense where
Right?
and like they said, there was no vehicles apparently, or construction vehicles or repair vehicles in that area. So it almost looks like yes, maybe it was supposed to be repaired, but nobody's working on it. So why is it, in a sense, inoperative or whatnot, right? So I think there is a lot of questions, and yeah, I think it just comes to like a compounding effect of years and years of certain policies, being put in place. And you know I don't think you can specifically blame the mayor or even Governor Newsom or whatnot, but I think it's just years and years of this vision and policy. And you were kind of touching on it off camera a little bit about the fire department in general, kind of like promotions and things like that, right? So the department is also changing in that sense.
Yeah, and then all of the new hires, you see how they handle incidents, and a lot of people weren't happy. I do want to say too, we also have to be realistic about living in the urban interface, right? Like where I live in Southern California, behind my house is the Cleveland National Forest, and I live at the base of a canyon, and winds whip through here. So like I'm fully aware if a wildfire starts anywhere near like it did this year on the airport fire. We were so lucky that we had no wind, because had there been wind, I'm pretty sure the exact same thing that happened in the Palisades would have happened here. So yeah, I agree with you. I just think it was a combination of all those things at the exact wrong time, and that's what happens. It's super unfortunate, but that's what happens. Who's the new coaching candidate for the Bears?
He's one of. I mean, they've interviewed. I think they have interviewed or they are going to interview him. But Ben Johnson is on the list, the Detroit Lions offensive coordinator. I know
He's like the
they.
hot pick right now.
Yeah, well, maybe not after this last game, but yeah, he is. But who else? They interviewed Pete Carroll, Ron Rivera, I believe. I can't remember who else. Cliff Kingsbury, Eddie George. So they've interviewed quite a few, but they'll probably go for the cheapest one. That's been the Bears. They don't want to pay a coach, so I think they're gonna go with. Yeah, Joe just keeps saying. I do want to remind Joe that the Bears are the only NFC North team undefeated in 2025. So we yeah. But hold on, I'm trying to respond to Dennis on the Instagram side. He's talking about the pardons that Biden just put
Dude.
out. And that, yeah, you have a thought on that?
Well, I was just reading an article about it, and it said it was interesting. It was the most broad use of pardons by any president in history. I mean, take that for what you will, because I don't know who the news source was, but I do think it was crazy, and especially like he pardoned Fauci, who has not been like he pardoned all of these people. I think it's super shady. Like I have no problem saying that. That is 100% super shady. The final hour, and then of course, hold on, I got to read this too, because I was literally just on where's the article at? It said we don't want to take people to take this as any indication of guilt. I'm like, I don't know about that. What should we take it as then? Why are you pardoning all of these people who have not really been formally accused of anything?
Yeah. So I replied to Dennis on Instagram. I said, to me, that's just a way of saying you're guilty without really saying you're guilty of something in a sense. But I always want to give people, a chance to come with the other side and their thoughts. And this leads perfect to, there is something on X that I saw, and this is from AES on Twitter, and he's definitely left leaning, I would say. But
Okay.
he basically is saying Biden is pardoning these folks because Trump is a dictator, and they're concerned about that. So that is some people's views
Opinion,
out
right?
there. Yeah, opinion on why Biden is doing, and I can see that. I can see if they feel like Trump is going to be attacking or going after these individuals. Then yeah, Biden is maybe protecting people that were in his team, right? So yeah,
Yeah,
different
here,
sides, different views, but my take is, it's basically you're saying guilty without really saying you're guilty in my view.
right? And this is what he said. He said the issuance of these pardons should not be mistaken as an acknowledgement that any individual engaged in any wrongdoing, nor should acceptance be misconstrued as an admission of guilt for any offense. Our nation owes these public servants a debt of gratitude for their tireless commitment to our country. So, one thing I guess I could say perfectly clear is I think Fauci's whole policy on COVID, whatever. I don't. Everybody's entitled to their own opinion. I do believe that, and we talked about this at dinner last night with some friends. I think the U.S. needs at least a two-party system, right? Keeps everybody honest. You got to have people on both sides so it doesn't tilt one way. But I don't know. I think that I'm fine with everybody. I wish we could all talk about our opinions still like you used to, and not ever have everybody flip out. That would be nice.
I think we're getting leaning that way again,
I hope
right? I,
so.
I I think it
Yeah.
seems like people are kind of putting the last 4 years or so behind them, and really realizing, like, okay, you know what? Um, my voice can be heard a little bit, right? Or I can voice my opinion, and people, well, there's people going to disagree with you. And even this morning, I was wasting some time on X arguing with some people, I guess. But I have fun with it, so it's not. But I don't take it too seriously. But yeah, a lot of people I think that's listening right now kind of are in the same camp as we are, as saying, how can this be? This kind of looks um, guilty in a sense, doing this at the last minute and whatnot. So yeah, I mean, you want to stay on this topic, or you want to kind of go back to the fires a little bit? I mean, as far as, like I said, you kind of are, that, like I said, that's kind of in your backyard in a sense, right? So you have a little
Yeah,
more
I
take
mean,
on it.
as far as like the fires go, I mean, I just think, California. So like things that I know from when I was on the job is we used to have a fire season. Now fire season is year round. California development has continued to spread into the urban interface where you're in these areas with a high fire risk and we're all living there. And I think a lot of it is goes back to if like it's always interesting to me. Like you look at the funding issue for LAFD, right? They talked about that $17 million cut in funding. Both LA County and LA City are like $1 billion a year organizations. So while 17 million is still a lot of money, it's still kind of like a drop in the bucket. And like I haven't even looked into any of that, so I don't have a good opinion on that because I don't know why they cut it, what they did. I just know like if you look at this from the outside in, I keep going back to crazy winds. Um, Perfect conditions. You got to start, and it was the worst possible scenario for that start to go happen. Now, like on the rabbit hole tinfoil hat side of me, I've also been seeing like all 40 people that were arrested for. Have you seen the looting? Well, we can talk about this because this is the looting stuff. There was like a couple who had like not a, they had a legit engine, but they snuck in because they were on an engine. They had like these cheap brush coats on, these weird radios, but they passed through. I don't know how they figured this out, and I don't know if I don't know if it's true because I was going down a wormhole, but they said all 40 people that were busted for looting, like right before the fires were started, they said they were like super close to the Palisades fire. So like basically they were all there. Palisades fire started, and they were going in as everybody else was fleeing. And I just thought about where I heard this. Andy Frisella. Do you know who Andy Frisella is?
Yep.
So they were talking about it on Cruise the Internet, and again, I wanna go look at it to obviously to verify, but I did think that was super interesting, and that's gonna give conspiracy theorists a whole lot to chew on.
Yeah. So it looks like we got someone here that believes Trump is a pedophile. So hey, well, thanks for stopping by. Just make sure you subscribe though, so we can discuss this maybe at another time. But yeah, your opinion, but you got to deal with him for next 4 years at least. But
Mhm.
I think that's the biggest thing, right? I think, like you're saying, the funding, like you're saying, from the outside, people are going to have problems with it. But I still go back to kind of just the whole building up to it, like what can be done. I think I don't know if you Rick Caruso. He was the other person running for mayor against
Mhm.
Karen Bass, and I'm not going to say he's Trump, but he's a real estate developer and he's more
Yeah.
business oriented, right? So I believe he has built stuff in the Palisades and things in that area, right? And majority of his developments are still standing, from what I hear, and it sounds like he hired water tankers ahead of time because he knew the winds were going to be coming for this time. He hired, maybe, I believe, maybe a private fire brigade or fire suppression team. And even the way he builds, they said he tries to have fire breaks there as far as he puts gravel around the unit. So he's thinking, knowing that this is like a yearly thing, right? And this is like you're saying, if you are going to go that environmental route, like you're saying, we're going to maybe not get as much lumber. We're going to have focus money on EV and these other environmental things, that maybe these brush fires are going to happen more severely. How can I these areas to protect my real estate, right? So I think that's something that has to be taken into account too, is just as far as how properties are being built and whatnot. And then now we can get into like California and restrictions and everything. Do you think this is going to be a problem moving forward with developing the Palisades again, as people have to rebuild their homes, as far as all the red tape and permitting restrictions?
I mean, if it stays the way it is right now, it's gonna take forever. I mean, that's why I think so, like, I think we've talked about it on your show too, and I know we have on ours, like, so California development, getting permits is a nightmare. It takes forever, and I think that's why they created the ADU laws that we have in California to kind of get a workaround around that because we have a housing shortage. Development's going to take way too long, so they created the ADU stuff, or I mean, I guess standard ADU rules to kind of speed that process up. I don't know how fast they're going to be able to do this. I feel like it's going to take forever unless they do like some kind of special exclusion for that area. But like, yeah, I mean, I think it'll take forever. And I'm also curious too, like all the water now, like all the groundwater, all these things, is that all tainted? I know, like, I have a buddy and a good friend that lives in Maui, and I know that there was a lot of water issues after the Maui fires, and they had to filter everything. And like where that sits on the Palisades, yeah, I don't know. I don't see it being fast at all. And I think California's got to be smart. And if you're going to build it up, like, how are you going to do this? And I know that they're pushing now for metal roofs and things like that. Well, if you're going to require metal roofs, are people going to have to go change all their roofs? If you do, are you going to offer some type of tax credit or tax incentive for them to do that? Because a metal roof is super expensive compared to other traditional materials. And I think, was it Caruso who said that like his building materials were more passive? And like, are you going to go away from stick built buildings in that area and go to concrete and metal? Like, I think there's going to be a ton of conversations. I just think our state is so out there with regulation that I don't see how it's going to happen fast at all.
Well, I'm interested to see, because I mean, from what I know, what you see, the Palisades are probably a more affluent area, wealthy area. Now, if they start expediting permitting or pushing things forward at a faster rate, is that going to be like, people are going to have a issue with that, right? Oh, why are these people able to move forward a lot quicker or start building or get permitting So I think that's going to be something that's going to be interesting to see how they handle that situation as far as pushing permitting through. And maybe relocate to another area. And the funny thing is, I mean, they're still talking about staying in California, just not the Palisades. But a lot of people might be exiting the Palisades area.
Yeah, and like even Pasadena too, like right, Pasadena's on the other side of LA. Yeah, okay, so somebody just said lost audio. I thought it was just me, but you cut out for a while.
Oh, well, I'm on. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you perfectly clear now. I thought it was my headphones. Yeah, he just said Mark's audio. But yeah, like I think Pasadena is interesting because that's a very affluent area. Um, yeah, and they're in a lose lose, right? If they expedite permits for all these rich people, everybody's gonna nail them. If they don't, it's gonna be, you're taking too long. Why aren't we helping these people out? I think it's going to be super. I mean, those are two of the most expensive areas in LA. Just to build in that area is going to be gnarly. And then insurance. California already has crazy insurance problems. I don't know what that's going to do to it. So, I mean, couldn't be more fitting that we have a change in the administration today, and then everybody I think is kind of hanging on to see what promises are going to be fulfilled and where everything's going to go. I saw the audio comment.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, Matt has a live, I believe, X and YouTube later on today with Michael Zuber. So if anyone out there, I believe
Oh,
it's
cool.
8:30 Pacific. He's going to be answering questions. So go check out Matt's channel later on today. But yeah, I think the one thing that you kind of brought it up is the insurance side, right? Are you having insurance for your, I guess, primary residence in California?
Yeah, so like we had Mercury insurance forever, right? And then like a year or two ago, they sent me this letter saying, "Hey, this is what you have to do to change in order to get renewed." So I had to like cut back all this brush. Like they had all these regulations, like palm fronds on my palm trees couldn't be touching. It had to be this many inches. All these things. I did all of it, sent them all the pictures, and they still dropped me. So then I went to Amica, which is not as well known, and they've been good. But yeah, my whole neighborhood, um, all these insurers have pulled out of my neighborhood, and then the costs went up. But it's like, what do? You can't move in with housing prices versus when I bought versus what they are now. All of these things. If I were to move to save $100 a month on insurance, my mortgage payment would go drastically up. All those things. So I don't know what's going to happen with that.
Yeah, sorry. I keep trying to mute when I'm typing because some people were saying when I'm typing on the lives, they can hear the background noise.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, so someone on Instagram was saying the governor already said they'll expedite permits. So that's going to be interesting. I think, some people are going to probably have issues with that. And, but like you said, I mean, there's all this red tape, right? Even Hawaii, right? You're looking at people that want to get back or rebuild and start their lives again. And it's like they have to jump through all these hoops. Not only dealing with the insurance companies, but now they got to deal with permitting and bills and whatnot. So hopefully, more people I think are seeing that too much government is a hindrance in a sense. So hopefully people are seeing that yes, we do want government, but we want a very minimal amount. But give us as much freedom and opportunities to flourish, right? And uh, not get in our own way in a sense. But Kyle's here. Hopefully, he's staying busy. I'm not sure if he's worked. I saw him post something recently, but he's a blue collar landlord on YouTube. But he says Trump coin to the fucking moon. Yep. Yep. So you know what? right there too. Another, you guys are bringing up great stuff, but I did save something from my friend Skylar Romines. She does commercial insurance, but she's on X and she posted this the other day. So let's see. She says, being on Twitter, kind of talking about meme coins and whatnot. She feels like she's in a room, and not she doesn't know what the joke is. Like it's an inside joke, and everyone's talking about it, laughing, and she has kind of no idea. And that's kind of where I'm at a little bit, on meme coins and whatnot. People are dumping a lot of money in there, and I don't really know what's going on. Are you in crypto and Bitcoin and stuff?
No, and it's interesting too, right? Because my buddy that I was at dinner with last night, he was talking about the Trump coin, and I didn't know. He said like, "Oh yeah, it went up 200% already since it was announced." I don't get any of it. To me, it seems like gambling. I mean, but I'm sure there's people much smarter than me that totally understand crypto. But I don't understand it, so I don't invest in it. I mean, that's like a good principle, right? Like, I'm sure there's. I do have somebody that I have worked with in the past, and he owns a significant amount of crypto, and he is like all in, and he is much smarter than myself. So I'm like, well, there's got to be something to it because a lot of people believe in it. But the meme coins, I think, is like outside of that, right? Like you have standard crypto, and then you have these meme coins. You're a fireman, you don't know much about anything. Since I know you're a cop, I do know one thing: I got in the right line, you got in the wrong line.
He just couldn't get in. That's the issue. They didn't they,
Right?
they, they didn't have DEI back then, so he didn't get in.
I'm
Uh,
joking around, Joe. I don't know you, but I'm
I'm
joking around.
I'm not really joking, but Joe's a good guy actually.
Nice.
But and sorry, I'm sure you guys had the accountability group this morning, but I was busy getting ready for this stuff, and but yeah, next week, hopefully, you guys had a good accountability group this morning. But yes, Hyder is definitely. He always mentions Bitcoin is the only one.
Okay.
All others are garbage. But that's the fun. Like you're talking about the Trump coin. I mean, I don't know the exact numbers, but I know his I don't know if his net worth that just or value or whatnot. It went up like 20x or whatnot after the meme coin came out, right? Because so much people dumped money into it. So
Billions of
um
dollars I saw, right?
yeah. So that's the thing too, right? Is he, people are like, is this gonna be is he gonna be a Trump tour, right? Is this a Hawk tour thing where there's gonna be a rug pull?
Right?
And so it's and so we're talking about inauguration day and whatnot. I think a lot of people are hopeful and are, people's have a lot of hope for this next term. But I think people are also questioning maybe a lot of the moves being made recently, as far as maybe like this is not really what we voted for. This is not what we signed up for. Like this Trump coin, and even the visas, the H-1B visas. There's a lot of things that people are like, hey, no, wait, these are not things that we wanted in a sense, right? But I think that the fact is we just got to see how it plays out, because Trump says like he talked about, I think on I forget whose podcast he was on though, but the weave, right? Like he'll say
Yes.
something and go around,
It
and
was
then
Joe Rogan.
yeah, and he'll come back to it, right? So I think even with his policies and things, a lot of times he'll say something to almost get like a feeler out there. Like, I'm going to throw this out there and see what kind of responses I get. Like even about, hey, Canada should be the 51st state, right? He
The
throws that
Gulf of
out there.
America.
Yeah, exactly. So I think he throws things out there and kind of sees, he's just putting the piece out there, and then he's going to see what response he gets, and now how he's going to maneuver around that. So um
He
yes.
reminds me, I swear, like, dude, when he talks sometimes, I'm like, this dude would be phenomenal at the kitchen table at the fire station because he just pokes people because he knows what's going to get her. You're right. And he wants to see what the response is half the time, I think. And like the whole Gulf of America thing, I'm like, oh, he's like, oh, this is going to set everybody off. Canada, this is going to set everybody off.
Yeah. But
I mean,
but
it's
then
very
right?
interesting.
But then he throws out Canada, and then you do have people that are like, hey, you know what? This kind of makes sense. Like let's maybe look into this a little bit deeper, right?
Yeah.
But when you first hear it, you're like, oh man, that's crazy talk. and yeah, Joe mentions Greenland, and now when's the last time you've been hearing people talk about Greenland, right? I mean,
right?
honestly, I had no idea much about Greenland, but now he mentions it, right? And you start looking into it, like, why would it be important for us, or these type of things. So, okay.
And you know
Uh,
what's weird too? I feel like I'd have to go back and look. Um, but I feel like Greenland was super strategic in World War II as well. Is that why he mentioned it? You know?
wait, sorry, what was that? I was reading a message from someone.
Oh, you're fine. I feel like Greenland was a strategic, like base or whatever waypoint in World War II,
Mhm.
and I don't know if that's why he mentioned it, but I feel like I was reading something the other day where that was like it had a ton of.
Minerals and
Oh, yeah, there you go.
yeah, so I believe, like, yeah, it's not just some crazy idea thrown out there. There is kind of, I think, military reasons and also future resources available, that Greenland has, that kind of wants to kind of get you ahead of the EV and chips market in a sense. So it's all somewhat strategic, right? And I like you said, it could be crazy talk, but he throws it out there. And I forget, I believe, I mean, this was talked about how many years ago too. Someone else brought it up as far as Greenland, being a part of the U.S. So it's not as if it wasn't talked about before. It's just,
Before.
yeah. Let's see, but yeah, he definitely throws things out there to see what kind of reaction he's going to get, right? Like even his tariffs and all these things he throws out there, but it's really just to get a feel for what people are gonna react to it, I guess, in a sense. And um yeah,
Well,
I
and I
think.
think too, like it forces people to like. I did you research? I mean, I don't know. I didn't know much about tariffs before he started mentioning it all the time. So I started researching it, and then I was like, okay, like what presidents have been in the same vein, and like how did that work out? And from what I read, it seems like I think it was implemented twice, like that kind of strategy, and it was working out. It worked out well, and then one of them got assassinated, and then I forget what happened. But yeah, and that could just be a massive bargaining ploy or
Yeah.
like pushing all of his chips in, right? He could be bluffing to get what he wants out of other stuff, and there's no real plan to implement tariffs. So I think I saw somebody said Zuber said the other day a lot will happen with executive orders. We don't see the big plan. Give it some time. I think you said that earlier too. Like we have to see the way things are going to play out. We can't on day one figure out what's going to happen. I mean, it's going to take time.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you said, going back to tariffs, I think if you take him, or if you take what he says and tariffs across the board and this much percentage, then yeah, most people are like, yeah, that's ridiculous. That's not going to work. But like you say, he puts it out there. It's kind of a starting point, a bargaining chip. I think he just really wants a kind of even playing field. And like you said, right, it's the art of the deal, right? He's throwing stuff out there, gonna see how people respond. And he definitely, I mean, and we have to agree that, we people are probably not paying their fair share as far as other countries, right? So he's throwing the tariffs out there to kind of even the playing field. And I think that the one thing is tariffs, can be inflationary. Yes, it can raise the cost of things here, but if it lowers your taxes in a sense, right? And you have more money in your pocket, now you have the choice of where you want to spend that money instead of the government taking their taxes from you and they are telling you where they're going to put the money now, right? So I think now it's also, you have to look at it that way, where things may become more expensive, but you have a choice of where you want to spend that money per se, because you're going to have more money in your pocket. So I think that's one way I would look at it.
Nice, yeah. I'm interested. Like I said, I mean, to be honest, why not try it with where we're at? And I mean, taxes couldn't get more expensive than they are now. And I don't know. I mean, I'm super interested to see what happens. To be honest, and I was just looking too, like business wise, right? Like again, when I was at dinner last night, it's like my best friend that we were at, and he is a commercial. He is the chief. He's the head of credit for a commercial bank, and they've been slow. And then I said, "Hey, how's everything going?" Oh, it's started to pick up. And then I asked him why, and he said he thinks because people are thinking that with this administration that things are going to go well. And for years, commercial has been just slow. His bank specifically has been slow. They haven't been taking on a lot of loans. And then now he's like, "Oh no, we're busy again." So I think a lot of people have already started to make moves based off of what they think is going to happen. And I think a lot of those moves are indicating that they all feel like we're going to have a financial boom.
Yeah, Kyle is talking about Greenland. He says melting ice caps make it more valuable in a few ways, I believe. Resources, trade, national security. And then Joe V asks thoughts on ceasefire. Biden's great negotiating skills, or are all afraid of Trump?
The latter. Did you see that press conference though when they asked him? Did you see that where they go, "Was this you or Trump?" And the way he turned around, I thought his head was going to explode. Did you see that?
You know, I don't know. Hmm. Well, the TikTok ban. Can you hear me? Why is my audio cutting in and
There,
out?
now it's clear again.
All right. Well, maybe I'm gonna close this because I've been trying to watch the inauguration on the side, muted. I'm just gonna close that. Maybe that has anything to do with it. But what was I saying? Oh, the TikTok ban, right? You know, you, you went onto the site and it says, sorry, unavailable at this time, and then people are, and then when it got reinstated, people are like, "Thank you, Biden. Thank you, all these things on X." And then you go to TikTok and open it, and it says, "Oh, thanks to Trump's work or whatever, TikTok is now available again." So it's like people at X are trying to push that Biden had something to do with it, but people realize that Trump is already, he's not even, well, today, but the past few days, he's not in office, right? And
Yeah.
but people are taking into account that he's going to be there, they're listening, and I think it really is just um you know you kind of don't know what he's going to do, and so people are going to react and play nicely in a sense, I think, and have a little more restraint on what they're going to do. I mean, you can, people people may not believe it, right? And people may say that you don't have to have this strength in leadership and all that, but it goes a long way, right? It goes a long way if your opponent or someone knows that you're going to make the tough decisions and whatnot. I think that has a lot to do with it on the way Trump behaves. uh,
Governor.
uh, you guys are retarded and is not in office as any.
We have Hunter Biden on the show.
Ah, Grimrot, a Grimrot. I think. Sorry. Are you? What? Where are you from? If you're okay saying, are you in the states? I mean, what area of the country are you in? But yeah,
Charlottesville
I'm. I Oh, look at me! I'm running for governor. I have all this authority, even though I haven't been put in office yet. Okay.
or president, but
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that's wrong though. I mean, there's no way you can't tell me that that other countries are not making decisions based off of the fact that he's going to get inaugurated today. So I don't think that we're out of line saying that whatsoever. And I think, I mean, most people who have any kind of clue would think that these people know just because he's not in office yesterday that he won't be in office today, and they're making decisions based off of that.
I'm trying to hide. It says, wait. Historically, typing lower taxes bring in more tax receipts because people and business are willing to bend over for less tyranny. Hmm. Historically, typing. Trying to wrap my head around that.
What did he say?
I'll just put it. He says historically, typing lower taxes bring in more tax receipts because people and businesses are more willing to bend over for less tyranny. Yeah,
I
I
think
think.
maybe historically, yes. Oh, instead of
Yeah.
speaking, he said historically typing. Okay,
Okay.
gotcha.
Yeah. Yeah. I think. Yeah. I think, like you say, people are. It's kind of allows movement in a sense, right? People are willing to do business and whatnot, right? It's like less restrictions in a sense, right? Oh, yeah. Hey, thanks for stopping by. Whatever SA8810X. Don't worry, Trump 2025. Yeah, cool. Yeah, man, I'm confused about the government comment. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure, but
Yeah,
just
well,
make
because
sure.
he said, "Look at me, I'm running for governor," and I think maybe he's unaware that Trump is running for president.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know.
Yeah,
Well, just make
it's a
sure you.
hot button, right?
Yeah, just make sure you subscribe.
Like and
That's
subscribe.
yeah,
Like
that's
and
the main
subscribe,
thing.
baby.
Yes, Trump 2025. Exactly. Yeah, I mean, what do you think? What do you think about all the talk about it being indoors now? People on X are like, see, look at that. He doesn't care about the people that coming to travel and support him, and they're gonna move everything inside and all these things.
I think what the last time they said that happened was with Reagan, and we know both of us obviously are friends with Aaron. Aaron works in DC, and it's freezing. And so shockingly, I did I have studied a lot of history, and now that I'm older, my brain is fried. But I do know there's one president that was out in the cold in this type of weather, and he died of pneumonia a little while afterwards. So I mean, like, hey, and obviously they tried to assassinate Trump. I think you could control an indoor environment much more so than outdoors. So I don't know. I mean, I think obviously the weather played a part, that the only part, the biggest part, but I think why not? It's happened before. I don't think there's anything shady going on. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I think all to your point, great points. I think. All right, Kyle, thanks for stopping by, man. Yeah, I think it's like same thing, right? It just seems like such common sense. If it's very very cold and it's not like Aaron was saying, it's freezing out there right now, and like you're saying, I mean, Trump is what 80? Is he 80 already or 80? He's old.
He's old, dude. I
Yeah,
don't
he's
know his
old.
exact age.
So why are we gonna put it outside when it's not necessary in a sense? And like you said, I mean, you mentioned assassination. It's not just once; it's multiple times. I mean, there's been
Yeah.
assassination attempts on him, and so I think it's just kind of common sense move. I definitely feel for the people that probably traveled there, took time out of their schedule, even spent money to travel. But I think, unfortunately, this is the smart thing to do, right? And so Joe V says it's -25 with wind chill in
Ugh.
Wisconsin. So probably not much better in DC. So that just also shows how smart you are, Joe, for staying in Wisconsin when me and Tyler are in Hawaii and California as far as weather-wise. So,
That's the only time
um,
I smile about 14% income tax in California is when it's 70 degrees out right now and I can
yeah.
go out in shorts.
uh, yeah. Yeah, man. Anything else you want? I mean, like I said, I kind of joked about it earlier about Joe, going back to the fire stuff about the DEI hire and whatnot. But I think it also appears that a lot of the country is moving away from that direction. And I don't know, you might have a little more firsthand experience in your state, your fire department. Was DEI being pushed a lot, you think?
I'm glad I'm retired, but yeah, oh yeah, I mean, dude, it's pushed everywhere, right? 100%. And I just think if anything, it's kind of proving that you can't hire based off of those principles because it's always should come down to the most qualified individual for that job, correct? The Democratic Republics of Hawaii and California. I agree
Yeah,
with you, man.
okay. Yes, yes, yes. Well,
Believe me.
I agree wholeheartedly about, like you're saying, higher qualifications, results, whatnot. But I think, of course, there's going to be bad apples out there, and that's, but for the most part, I would say that I think that's how I would think most people are hiring. But when you put that DEI out there, now no matter what, it brings in any hire into question in a sense, right? So now you see this incident happen in California or LA and the mayor, and that's the first thing people are going to bring up, right? I mean, she could have the greatest credentials and be hired,
True.
but because that DEI is out there, that's the first thing people are going to bring up, right? And she could be very qualified for it. I have no idea, but that's the first thing that's going to come to mind a lot of times when the DEI is out there and in the mindset. So I think the best thing to do is let's just not discuss it or get it out of there. And like you're saying, just people will be hired based on their credentials and their qualifications.
100%. And I'll take negative 25. No, I'm good. I'm good. I agree. And I think, it's funny, like how for us, I think all fire departments are federally mandated, for example, to hire more female employees, more female firefighters. And it's funny because the amount of time and effort that it takes to recruit for female candidates and the lack of interest is really interesting to me. I know like LA City and LA County for sure are like they're trying everywhere. Any D1 type school, military, and they still cannot get those candidates. So you have policies in place. They're trying to implement them, and the results that they think they were going to get to create a more level playing field, they're not happening. So it's like LA County, we always say adapt and overcome, right? Like, okay, well, this is not working. So like, let's try something else. And I agree. I just keep going back. If you get the most qualified individuals for that job and it happens to work out to fulfill certain things, that's awesome. And I think like, our department has great females on the job too. I just think you can't get the numbers that you would on the male side. I mean, in for LA County, the first fire test I ever took, I thought the building was being evacuated because there were so many people outside of the building in line for the test. Then after I looked again, I'm like, oh, it's all dudes in suits. This is my competition. It was crazy. And I think, yeah, so I don't know. I mean,
Yeah. We were just talking about that the other day. I guess one of the guys at my station was on a trip recently, and he stopped by a firehouse. I forgot where he was at, but the person there was talking like, yeah, we're having a difficult time hiring people, things like that. And you know, we are hiring people, our department, but it's not the same turnout like it was, 20 years ago. You have people that are not showing up for interviews. You have people that are not even going to the physicals when they get scheduled. And it's just amazing to me because when I was coming in, it was like you're saying, like, there's just people fighting over each other, climbing over each other, trying to
oh
get
yeah,
in, and like, yeah, preparing for it. And now it's like you're saying, they're going out of their way to try to find people. And I think a lot of it, of course, I don't know, I think your guys' retirement also has changed, so it's not as lucrative, to some of the people out there. And a lot of people are making money other ways, but they're definitely going out of their way to find people to work. And even that, that video by the, I believe it was the assistant fire chief of the LA fire, LA City, LA County, LA City,
it was
right?
LA City, not LA County. That was LA City.
But even
Definitely not
that,
LA County.
I mean, I don't know if anyone else seen that video, but she's talking about if she had to save your husband or whatnot. It's like, they put themselves in that position.
Dude,
And but what blows me away is that had to have gone through a production team.
right?
It wasn't like recorded live where maybe she said something out of context or she made a mistake, but it was like, okay, this is a planned commercial or whatnot, and it had to have gone through multiple editing and production teams, and yet it still made its way out there. Like, that's what blows my mind.
Unreal. Like that's the antithesis of like everything that we do is we're not like looking to see who you are or what you do or what you believe in. It's like we go in no matter what the case and we help. Right? I mean, it was just like unreal. And like you said, I didn't think about that until you said that, but that's true. Like there's multiple people that had to edit. approved. And we know, dude, in the fire department, for anything to go by, you got to have 500. We have them EAs, EPs, memos, 500 signatures. I mean, it's like not efficient whatsoever. So like, it went through the whole chain, and they're like, "Yeah, this is a good
Yeah.
idea. Let's put that out there."
Yeah. And I know, same thing too, right? I know, that person could have been talking about medicals and other type of calls, but it's like, if we went to help someone in a fire, you're geared up. You can't tell what color my skin is. You don't know what race I am. I'm masked up. You have no, you do not care what I look like. You do not care what my background. You just want me to help you and get you out of it. There's no like I want someone to look like you.
Dude,
I'm gonna feel yeah.
100%. Joe, that's wrong. What happens is the police show up on scene of a fire. They block our hydrants, they block our access, and then act like they did us a favor. So thank you, sir.
See, if Joe could be man enough to come on the lives and show his face, then we could have a real discussion here. But
Uh,
yeah.
it's okay.
Uh
We let you guys use our hoses behind the station and have fun and smile so you guys can, police officers need heroes too.
yes, Hyder says the pendulum does seem to be swinging back. I think, like, yeah, swinging back to just more common sense. I think that's where we're swinging back to. And like he says, make merit great again. Absolutely, right? I think
100%.
that's where, like you said, and it's just common sense. I think it really, we are just getting back to a common sense place, and hopefully that's where we can stay for a long time. And I think the big thing is just let people have the freedom to decide, I guess, their success or failure, right? Make decisions for the most part. Just stay out of people's way in a sense when we're talking about government, right? We just provide us the essentials, the basics, and for the rest of it, just kind of let people figure things out on their own in a sense. I think that's the simplest way I could put it.
Get out of the way, right? Let government
Yeah,
get out of the way and let the
yeah.
people do. Like, I think it should be more of like bumper pool than anything. It's like,
I also I'm a part of he has a kind of a big podcast, and we're definitely a free speech. This guy Matt Kim, he's on social media.
okay,
But he had a great YouTube video the other day, and he was really talking about tribe mentality in a sense, and maybe is part of the issue that we're almost like trying to make, even just within America, we're trying to make everyone the same, right? Like, should we every states be going back to kind of each state being very, very unique in a sense, right? Like the federal government, yes, we're going to take care of certain things, but for the most part, everything going back to the states, to where the states are going to kind of make these final decisions. Because I think, I really thought about it, and it really seems like that is probably one of the biggest issues is everything is, I mean, I'm not 50-50, but most policies, right? It's like very in the middle. There's people on one side and there's people on the other side. And the fact that we're trying to get everyone to agree on this one thing is probably what's keeping a lot of the um, people at odds, and a lot of the problems in America. I think if we can just kind of get back to, like, yeah, certain states are going to be this way, and this kind of have its own policies in a sense. I think that might be super helpful.
I agree. I mean, that's like state rights, and that's what's beautiful about our country is like, if you don't like policy in California and it really does bother you, you can either stay here and try to change it, or you can leave and go to a state that's more in line with what you believe in and live there. You can go, if you don't like California, you can go to Wisconsin with Joe, negative 25 degrees, and be in the land of the free again.
Yeah. Well, on that point, I think, and maybe that's why I would say maybe I'm more center right, is I feel like the left side is the ones that are trying to make everyone fall under this one umbrella,
Yes,
where the
100%.
right is a little bit more like, hey, let's have these general principles, but for the most part, you go do what you need to do, or what you believe in a sense, right? So with that being said, though, so like you mentioned California, right? And I think most people would agree California is very extreme, probably definitely on the left. One of my friends who was in the fire department with me, he's from San Diego, I believe. He came to Hawaii. He moved to he's back in San Diego, but he had a post on Facebook the other day. He was talking about how California is not as bad as people like to make it, in the media. He says California is not expensive, it's rich, and that's why people stay there, right? They're there for the weather, they're there for a lot of the things around, the things you can do, and just so it's kind of like, don't believe what you're seeing out there. There is definitely a trade-off, there is, but if you fall into this rabbit hole of how bad it is, then yeah, it's going to be bad for you in a sense, right? But if you understand how much beauty, and I think Hawaii is the same thing, there's so much beauty here,
Oh, it's
but
beautiful.
you have to just realize there is a trade-off. And for you, is that kind of your maybe reasoning or why you're still there, I guess, in California?
100%. So like I think I was talking about it. Like we went to Dallas, and Texas and California are Texas is kind of, I think, going more towards the middle, even though they don't want to admit that. But yeah, like I look around where I live, like California is beautiful. I'm like 15 minutes away from the beach. I have a mountain in my backyard, all these beautiful things. And it's like, I, uh, knowing all this is like anywhere I leave, it's not going to be like this at all. Right. And luckily for me, I live in the safest city in California. And most of the people that, I live around are of a like mind. So even in California, there's still pockets of people who are all more like-minded towards myself than like all the left-leaning policies. And I think has become so in vogue to complain about California, even including myself, but like on the day to day, like what things have affected me, not as many as even I would like to think, right? So yeah, and it's like I'm willing to put up with it because it's where I'm from. I grew up here. A lot of the things on the day to day don't affect me as much as maybe if you're living in LA, San Francisco. Like, we don't have a lot of homeless people in my city that are, again, I know that happens, but like as a fireman, starting lots of fire, drugs, things like that. We don't have a lot of that kind of stuff. And I live in a police neighborhood. I do have a lot of cops on my street. We had to help them with the down payment, but they are here. Uh, um, yeah, but I mean, like, I love specifically where I live in California. It's amazing, and like that's the thing. Like, we have talked a lot about moving out of state because of certain policies with our children. Education for sure is a big thing for my family. How they're being educated, like I'm 100% not okay with. But it's like, well, where do we go? And we're going to give up everything for something that maybe we can control. So now we have. I agree with you, Joe, on that one thing. I do love having all the police officers in my neighborhood 100%. But now we homeschool, right? So there's things that we can do. Like in Hawaii, I'm sure there's policies that you don't love. There's a reason everybody's flying to Hawaii all the time and paying thousands of dollars to vacation there. It is unbelievably beautiful. I mean, it is. I love. I mean, if I could go live in Kauai, I would.
Well, I think Hyder may move there. That's where Lauren's family or her parent or her mom's living.
Okay,
But
it's
Lauren's
amazing.
place is on Maui. She has a place on Maui also.
So my wife lived in Maui for a while too, and I think she would rather live in Maui than she would in Kauai. She lived in Kihei for a while, for a couple of
Ma-
years.
yeah, Maui is a nice mix. Like Oahu, where I'm at, is going to be like your busiest, most congested. Kauai is definitely really more of that island kind of countryness. To Maui's kind of like that, still that mix. It used to have some areas, they still have some tourism base, but Maui would probably be the nicest blend.
Blend of both.
But yeah, Hyder says San Diego has a very diverse topography, all within 45 minutes. That's really special to him.
For
I
sure.
think, yeah, I think you're getting a new fan. Joe said, I think he's talking about you. Says, I love this guy. I told him it would have been wild if Aaron was, if we had all three of
Oh,
us,
for
but
sure, dude.
yeah, and I'm trying to get it to happen again, but Aaron had to work. He's working the inauguration. So, but yeah, do you think, okay, let me ask you this then. If you didn't have, or your kids are out of the house already or graduate, would you think you're still going to stay in California? Let's say they didn't go to college there and they were somewhere. Would you still stay in California, you think?
So I think we would have our home in California. We've already talked about what we want to do when the kids are out, and like they're we want to go travel through Europe and stuff like that, and do that. But like as our home base, if I didn't have to worry about my kids' education and things like that, I think I would still stay here because, like he mentioned, I am 15 minutes from the beach, an hour and a half from mountains that we can snowboard on, do all of these things. I mean, I'm an hour from well, LA used to be more appealing to me because I love food and stuff like that, and there's a little bit more culture there. But yeah, like I would not leave if it wasn't for my kids are my number one priority. So if I have to leave because I don't think it's the best place for my kids, then we have to suck it up on the climate and the beauty. We've already talked about that. It's like I always say, you're not going to find anywhere better climate wise than California on the mainland. So if we're leaving to find better weather, we can't because we're here. Maybe Florida, but Florida doesn't really. I mean, Florida's pretty, but for some reason, it does not appeal to me. I don't know why. It's never been like on my radar. Would
True.
you ever
Yeah.
leave Hawaii?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
You
Well,
said you would, right? I think we
yeah.
talked about it before. You said you would, yeah.
But I think it's a lot like you. The fact that I already have some roots here, I would definitely make sure I keep the roots here. So, like you're saying, if you have a home there, or you already, you're gonna keep that as a base or some leveraging tool, whatnot. As far as if you're generating income on it, but that way you always have some sort of tie here or to your home base. But I guess my thing would be like if you were starting now, right? Like let's say you didn't have a home anywhere. Would you think you'd be looking at California to start? I think
N
that's where, yeah.
No, because, well, A, I wouldn't have roots here, and B, like, I would not want to pay what my house is worth. Like, I would never come out here and be like, "Okay, I'm gonna live there for X amount of dollars." It's just not as appealing because then quality of life goes down and all the things that I'm able to enjoy, I wouldn't be able to enjoy anymore because I would be super house poor. Right? So, I mean, I guess if you're in unlimited income, but no, I don't think so. Like, I wanna go check out, like, South Carolina's big on my
Yeah.
radar. There's other states that I wanna go check out, and yeah, I don't think so. I just think, like, unfortunately, California is so out there in so many aspects. Unless it comes back, I'd take the middle at this point. I think both sides would be, if we could just be moderate on both sides. I think that would be make California way more appealing, and it would be telling. I bet you the migration towards California would be massive if it ever became like a more moderate state. For the
Oh,
same reason it was popular before, I think it would be unbelievable how many people would move back here.
yep, yep. I think you are totally right. I think, part of it too is this: when you have success, California has so much wealth, I guess, in a sense, and it is so beautiful. You start focusing on maybe third world third world country problem, right? You start focusing on things that you're getting away from what made you great or what made you special in a sense, right? So, like you're saying, keeping up with maybe basic infrastructure or certain, not like you're saying, we're going too much focus on climate change type stuff, environment. Now you're neglecting certain things on that forefront, right? So, I think it's one of those where, like you said, they went so far and
Right,
now people, like, it just people like you said, just all you really want is that middle. Let's have some sensible things. Then, of course you want regulations, of course you want policies in place, but it's like you said, it probably went too far to one side, right, and very extreme. But yeah, I think Hawaii is definitely. I think the one thing with Hawaii is challenging is even now. So, like, I believe it was a California developer bought oceanfront property by one of the resort areas in Ko'olina, and now they're talking about building Atlantis, I believe, some kind of.
okay, yeah, yeah.
So
Resort.
yeah, so that's a big issue now because there's people like, oh, why are we keep bringing in these type of tourist type businesses? Why are we keep focusing on this type of industry? Like, why can't we focus our resources or build affordable homes? So yeah, it's just we put all our eggs in one basket out here. Tourism is kind of the focus, and COVID definitely showed how that can be harmful in a sense, right? So,
Yeah.
but
We
yeah,
were in
so
Maui during COVID, and it was kinda sad to see, like, Lahaina and stuff, man. Like, I was like, "Oh, this is brutal for them." Like you said, it's a tourist it was really sad to walk down there and see all the stores shut. I was like, "Oh, man, this is brutal."
yeah, I mean, and I think across the country too, right? It was hard to see these mom and pop type stores and small, businesses, and then you're able to see Target and Costco and all these big box stores that were able to stay open, right? So it was hard to see, but I think a lot of people definitely are waking up, and like they just like you said, they want just more sensible policies, like in the middle. But yeah, the weather is definitely hard to give up, and I think a lot of people are willing to make that trade for maybe higher cost of living and whatnot. But the funny thing too is I know a lot of people that have actually. There was a guy in the school community for one rental at a time who left California. He's in Texas now, but
Okay.
he just went back to California because he still does have family there. But he says he loves it more now because he's just there, and when he does go back to California, he's just able to enjoy like the beauty of it from that.
And
He doesn't.
not get bogged down with all the negativity of all the politics.
Yeah, and just the
Yeah.
grind, because he feels like you're in the grind when you're there.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, so like he said, Texas, he's doing some things there, but then when he goes back to California, it's just like, oh, yeah, I can enjoy everything now. So and I think that's even people I know, they've left Hawaii to go to Vegas, and they come back here for vacation, see their family, and it's just like they're at the beach every day. They're able
Yeah.
to take in all these hikes, and they're not, So I think that's what people also have to think about is you may not live here, but when you are here, you actually get to enjoy a lot of the things that if you're living here, you might miss out on.
Right? Like, you're just like, you drive by beaches all day long, and maybe you never go there, but if you were to come back and visit, you're like, "Hey, let's go do X, Y, and Z." And I will say one thing about Texas. When I was there, I was like, I feel like this is how America used to be. Like, people were friendly. It wasn't crazy. The Dallas Cowboys game, even though they make me want to, because I'm not a Dallas dude, people were super polite. It wasn't like going to Qualcomm or LA where you feel like you're going to get punched in the head if you're not rooting for the right team. I was like looking around. I'm like, dude, this is like how America should be. Like, hey, we can all be friends, and not like not all be friends, but like be like normal human beings and not be so crazy. So it's definitely fast paced in California, even fast fun. It is because it's a rat race to live here, right? You have to be constantly moving to afford to live here. That is one thing that's true. So, but Texas, even though I don't think it's as beautiful as California, even where I my limited area of Dallas, because I don't know much outside of that, so I've never really visited. But it was nice to see that. So
No, I think that's funny you mentioned that because even like, so my son's mom is from North Carolina, and
okay,
we would go visit all the time, and you know before going there, you'd always, people, hey, what, they're racist over there, all these kind of things. And hey, like you said, go there, and it's just like the friendliest. I mean, of course, I'm sure there's racism
for
everywhere,
sure.
but it's like just like the friendliest people. And it's not the South South, but it's the South, North Carolina. And it's just like, yeah, just the friendliest people, just I don't know. It's just different. So I love it there. I mean, but yeah, I think you can't, like you said, even with California, where you can't just take what you see on the media and all these things
No,
and what the news is saying. But I think at the same time, you also got to be aware of what's going out there, right? So I think Denzel Washington one said it right. If you're what is it? If you watch the news, you're misinformed, but if you don't watch the news, you're uninformed, or something like that. Yeah.
yeah,
So it's kind of like that, right? I mean, you gotta watch it, take it with a grain of salt, kind of form your own opinions, but just do be aware of kind of what's going on out there. And yeah, man, I don't know if you got it. I mean, it's just about 20 minutes, I believe, till the inauguration.
no,
Anything else you want to wrap it up? This was, like I said, this was kind of just last minute. I wanted to have some fun
yeah,
with it. Hope
I'm good.
we tried to get Aaron on. I tried to get Tony on. You know him, right? Fireman Flip.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know, yeah,
absolutely. We had him on our podcast too. He's a good dude. Mike actually mentored him for a little bit, I think, or
yeah.
coached him, whatever you want to say. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so I tried to get him on, but he says I think he's on duty right now, so he couldn't do it. But I don't think other people want to touch this topic. So some people kind of shied away, I believe. Um, but yeah, it's always fun, man. I don't know if anyone in the chat has any other questions or about Tyler, maybe mortgage rate, what he because he's in the lending industry. So if you guys have any quick questions on what he's maybe thinking of more, yeah, if you want, what's your thoughts on mortgage rates going forward, I guess, or what do you think this new administration might have an impact on?
I think I think well, rates went down a little bit last week after horrible, well, not horrible, but they ran up, right? Contrary to what we were thinking was going to happen in 2024. But the last couple of weeks, we've had a little relief. And I just keep going back to if you look at policies that are going to be in place, I think regardless, I think rates are going to come down because I think that's like the biggest tool that we have to spur our economy. And I think in California specifically, where I do most of my lending, I think you're going to have prices go up because we don't have a ton of inventory. And I think it's going to be a more overall business friendly environment, which translates into people making more money, making moves on houses, getting new mortgages. So I'm excited for it. And I think they've mentioned a lot about the CFPB, and I'm very interested to see what happens. Post Dodd-Frank, when the 2007 and like 10 crash happened, all kinds of things were put into place, right? Like anything, pendulum was way over here, and they're like, "Whoa, we got to fix this." So it went all the way over here. That might come back a little bit, and I don't know. I'm very positive for the next couple of years. Do I think rates are going to like go back to 2%? Absolutely not. I just think if we get into an area where we have like 5% interest rates, I think it's going to be like let it rip. Like I think housing's going to take off again.
Yeah, I think like you touched on, I think the one thing is that with Trump taking office in a little while or today, but is that people just kind of want a little more stability or certainty. Yeah, yeah, he says crazy things and whatnot, but you kind of just know where his general mindset of growth and business and real estate is. And I think that's like you're saying, maybe rates or so even like Hawaii, I posted it on X, but there is some banks, credit unions that are, coming out with new mortgage programs, like a 40-year mortgage program
Yep.
at one of the credit unions. And condo insurance has been an issue for a lot of the buildings in Hawaii. And they've also coming out with a condo insurance kind of program to help people. It's basically a lot of these programs are to help people get in the door, get your foot in the door, start building equity, get on the property ladder, and then kind of in a sense figure things out after that. If rates go down, refine it, but whatnot, just be able to get in now. Um, but Hyder, does Aaron have any thoughts on DSCR loans and their availability coming? I forget. Does your company do DSCR loans?
We do. I mean, I think they're going to continue to be available. I think a lot of those are based off of the prime rate, which is different than conventional mortgages, and that's gone down. And I think, yeah, I think they're going to be just as available. I think, like anything though, right? When conventional mortgages have a huge uptick in volume, um, when they have a huge uptick in volume, where are all the investors going to put their money? In a DSCR pool or into a conventional pool that's backed by Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac? It's probably going to go back to that. So then it's going to have to, DSCR is going to have to make their return more enticing for people to invest in those mortgages. They'll still be there, but you remember the market for conventional versus DSCR is way larger. So I think that'll change a little bit, but I think they'll be around. Do lenders make more money on DSCR compared to conventional? No, it's all, well, you can, because so a DSCR loan is commercial. So I can charge you whatever I want to charge you. For conventional, we all have set compensation plans that I can't deviate from because of things like Dodd-Frank, right? To make it more secure for the borrower, which I think is good because people were getting overcharged. So no, I mean, I can make it. I don't do that. I mean, for me, it's all like I do everything relationship based. So I'm going to charge you the same I'm going to charge you on a conventional versus DSCR. And it all comes out in, I have customers for life. I've been doing this for 20 years. I'm not worried about making more money on one single loan. It's like, I want to do business forever. Now, do people probably overcharge? 100%. But yeah, um, No. So that answers hopefully both those questions. I do have to go like in 2 minutes, so I have to take my daughter to PT.
All right, yeah, I gotta get ready for work soon, but yeah, this was a good one, man. We'll do this again, and we'll try to get Aaron on, and it's funny. It's only firefighters. There's no police officers that want to do this. I don't know if Joe is still here, but yeah, man.
They're all secretive.
Yeah, everyone, thanks for stopping by. Remember Martin Luther King Jr. Day, inauguration day. So everyone, stay positive out there and